Kim Beazley is set to finish up as Governor of Western Australia tomorrow after more than 4 years in the role. The former federal opposition leader joined me earlier to reflect on his time in the role and look ahead at his next career move. Kim Beazley, thank you so much for coming into the studio. It's great to see you in here. We appreciate it. Congratulations on your tenure as Governor of WA, which is coming to a close. You have held so many roles over your lifetime, too many to list, but obviously our viewers would know you as a former US ambassador and leader of the opposition. What was it about this role of Governor that was so special to you? What did you learn?
What I loved doing was opening up the house to the public. You know, the government house is a working house. It's got working people in it, and it's a great state asset, and you can use it for lots of purposes. So what I loved doing with the governorship was getting the discussions going on critical items like critical minerals, getting discussions going on a whole range of health research related issues, getting it on defence industries. It was the Premier had given us a sort of advocacy mandate. So pushing that out was fantastic. So lots of new people brought into Government House for those purposes. And then my wife in particular got together a lovely program of Restart the Arts. So to help out music in particular during the, and still the worst of COVID. And those artists really needed opportunities. So to be able to provide those in Government House ballrooms was great. And we also have every month, we have a school in where the kids are learning a bit of music, and we get a band up there, and they just have the loveliest time chatting away and listening to the music and getting to learn more. And then they do a tour of the house and then a tour of the grounds. Fantastic. You are a keen Republican. What do you say to people who say, oh, let's just abolish that role, put the public funds elsewhere? Is that something you grappled with? Well, that's their business, of course, and that's the business of the people. I'm a Republican. I'm also a Democrat. So I take seriously what it is that the Australian people have decided about how we should be governed. And the Australian people have decided at this point that we're a constitutional monarchy. So I'm not going to leave any part of it to one side. I'm perfectly happy to play a role that is designated constitutionally as governor, and until such time as it's changed. Could Government House in Canberra be tempting for you? No, it's I'm played out. No, I'm not played out. I wouldn't mind doing a few more jobs, but I think that one will probably be spoken for. So what is next? What's next for you? Well, back on the tools. I used to be at the US Asia Centre over here as a fellow. I discovered yesterday I still am. So they've counted me as one of their distinguished fellows while I've been in the job. So back to that, back to writing, back to speaking, doing things I love. And what do you want to write and speak about? What are the issues that still... Well, you know, mostly I'm about national security type issues, developmental type issues. So probably in the main that. And I already have a few speaking engagements coming up on that. So that's important to me. It's always been, for most of my life, the thing that's most important to me. I always used to ask myself this question when I was a Defence Minister, and that is this: what right do we have to be here? Now, I feel we have every particular right, and there's a UN charter which says that we have the right, but I can quite see it that some people might ask the question, answer the question a different way. They might say, for example, why should you be on the only continent that has only one nation on it? You know, and so I have always been concerned about how do we preserve our position? What do we need to do diplomatically, defence-wise? What sort of society do we need to be in order to be able to be secure? And that will worry me until the day I die. Well, many people do argue that our position is at risk at the moment. We've seen the relationship with China change dramatically in just the last few years. When you're in public life, often the question would be asked to politicians like yourself,
who do we need to choose between the United States and China? And usually the answer, when I was covering politics in Canberra, was we don't have to make that choice. It's not a choice. Do you think now we have chosen firmly the US via the AUKUS deal? And does that concern you at all?
In security terms, we've always chosen the US. Well, when I say always, at least since World War II, we've chosen the US. Particularly since the 1960s, we've chosen the US. That's when the US alliance actually intensified to its current structure. And but we trade. That's what all countries do. And they don't necessarily run a thumb test along the people with whom we trade. The decisions that have been taken that affect us are largely decisions by China, not by ourselves. So I take the view that we start with the point of our security. When we've provided for that, we see what we have to do diplomatically.
What did you make of the AUKUS agreement?
Yeah, a surprise. It came as a bit of a surprise to me, particularly the UK component of it. In terms of the American component of it, it's basically there inherent in the various aspects of our alliance relationship. We've done research on national security matters with the US for a very long period of time, acquired equipment from them for a very long period of time. The nuclear submarine issue is a new one. And that probably is what brought the UK in. But the UK is also very determined to play a role that they describe as global Britain. So it's, for the UK in particular, it's been a very important agreement.
When it comes to China, what would your advice be to the new Prime Minister Anthony Albanese if he asked you how we need to reset, do we need to reset that relationship?
It would be put the megaphone away, keep the principles. And you know what? I think that's what they're doing. When you look at it, where they had to make a stand, they will. But they won't go trailing their coats. And I think that is the sensible thing to do, because that is called the practice of statecraft. And we have to practice statecraft in our region. And I think we are foreshadowing doing it okay.
So when we look at the relationship, have we changed, or has China changed more dramatically in the last few years?
China's changed hugely. You know, the structures that were put in place by Deng Xiaoping, which were the structures that we all responded to and welcomed China into the embrace of nations. You know, back when Gough Whitlam was in power, Chinese GDP and Australian GDP were the same. And things have changed. China's a reality that we deal with and that we relate to. But the decisions that have been taken, which have created problems, are basically decisions that they have been taking, to which we respond. And we need to practice that statecraft I referred to, ensure that it has as small an impact on us as possible.
I know you take a particular interest in defence assets here in Western Australia. There is some concern that the west coast of Australia and the top end could be vulnerable strategically. Is that a problem?
Yes, they are. They are vulnerable strategically. It is a problem, and it is probably the major defence problem that we have to deal with, and will no doubt preoccupy the new government as it does its force posture review. That's been foreshadowed for a long time. West Australia is the world's greatest mineral province. We're not the greatest mineral country, but if you look at a province, a state, a governing entity within a state, we are the world's leading mineral province. We also have the capacity to produce pretty well all the critical minerals for the new era technologically. Joe Biden put out a list of 50, we've got 41 of them. So we are, not only does that mean that we have got a vital contribution to play in things like AUKUS and global security, it also means that we're potentially a target. So we have to work through into our policies. What do we do to defend our approaches, particularly our northwestern approaches? I think that will preoccupy folk for a long time because we're not there.
Kim Beazley, congratulations on your time as Governor, and we all do look forward to seeing what comes next.
So do I.